Point 7. Point 7 says, sometimes God works through intermediate agents. And so his logistical grace also works through intermediate agents. What does intermediate agents mean here? It means that God uses agents instead of him doing things directly himself. He does things indirectly through agents, intermediate agents. Just as he uses angels, just as he uses people. You're going to be an intermediate agent used by God to bless someone else. You're going to be an intermediate agent when sharing the gospel. Have you led someone to the Lord? Oh, you did. You are an intermediate agent. Well, God's logistical grace also functions through intermediate agents, and this is a wonderful example here. The Corinthians sending money to the Jerusalem Christians. The Jerusalem Christians sending spiritual blessing to the Corinthians. At the end of the day, no one was able to boast in front of one another because they all, in a way, depended on each other. Point 8. God's logistical grace is expressed through the intermediary agency of the Jerusalem Christians in giving spiritual blessing, while the Corinthians gave temporal blessings, all being part of God's logistical grace. Excuse me. Again, God's logistical grace is expressed through the intermediary agency of the Jerusalem Christians in giving spiritual blessing, while the Corinthians gave temporal blessings, all being part of God's logistical grace. Okay, now we can begin our doctrine. It's taken us a while. Now we've been, talking about doctrine, but here what I mean by doctrine is that the enumeration of it in points. I find that it makes it very easy to just see it as point 1, point 2, point 3. Even though sometimes I rebel and decide not to put 1, 2, 3, I just leave a space like that. It's okay, bear with me for a moment. I'm already having a hard time of my own. Okay, point 1, definition of logistics. Okay, Herbert Britannica, yes. First of all, logistical grace. If you prefer the name living grace, this is what it is. Living grace is grace in phase 2, post-salvation. We're not talking about the grace that you receive at salvation, saving grace. That's already done for. That's already completed. You have it. You have it in your lap, so to speak. But now, part of those blessings that you receive at salvation serve as the basis for living grace, logistical grace in phase 2. It is to our benefit to divide grace into different categories, such as common grace, the grace that the unbeliever receives when he hears the gospel; efficacious grace, the grace that he benefits from when he believes in the Lord Jesus Christ so as to make that faith effective; saving grace, the grace that gives you the salvation package at the moment that you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ; logistical grace, living grace, the grace that you enjoy in phase 2 in keeping you alive in the devil's world and providing everything necessary for you to advance in the plan of God, all the way to, boom, super grace. That's another category of grace. You've increased grace all the way to spiritual maturity. Now you have the capacity for those great blessings. Dying grace. Instead of dying the sin unto death, the super grace believer receives the wonderful privilege of undergoing dying grace, a happy death, regardless of whatever type of death you're dying, cancer death or peaceful death, torture. You can have dying grace while you're even being tortured. Can you believe that? Extremely happy. Well, for after all, who was tortured? Who received the worst torture in the world ever known to mankind? It was the Lord Jesus Christ, and he was still extremely happy, as per Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2, for the exhibited happiness. Because of his exhibited happiness, he endured the cross, despising the shame. Yes. So dying grace. And then surpassing grace, those super grace blessings of hope 3, that's an eternity future. All right, so now we see the different categories of grace. I'll write those down later on, but this is living grace, the grace of the believer only in phase 2. So logistics, this is what we call it because it's a military term. And let's see what military. I'm not a military man, but I do study military history. I find a lot of analogies in military history to the Bible. It helps me understand Bible a lot. Also, we will get a chance to fight a little bit if 2030 comes along. And so some of you guys who are not military men, you will get a little chance of fighting. And so don't worry, you do have to know something about military history, about the principles of war, etc. So start reading Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Start reading Clausewitz. Start reading, I don't know. Okay, let's continue. Definition of logistics per Britannica. Britannica says military logistics encompasses all the activities that support combat units, such as transportation, supply, signal communication, and medical aid. Antoine Henry Jomini defined logistics. Antoine was a military theorist. He wrote on the Napoleonic War. He was a Swiss man. And he's said to be the greatest exponent of the art of logistics and military warfare. So he defined logistics as the practical art of moving armies, including planning, administration, supply, billeting. Billeting is housing military people in other areas that are not military facilities, encampments, and road building. Logistics in business is similar as that. It has to do with the inflow and outflow of goods and service, the storage of information about buyers and consumers and sellers. It has to do with supplying everything, storing, even warehousing. Sorry for my cheap definition. Okay, so now, having understood this, now let's go to logistical grace in the Bible. Pay attention. Hine, or idu, some of these concentration interjections. Point 2, logistical grace in the Bible is the category of post-salvation, meaning for the believer only. Post-salvation grace toward the saved believer for the purpose of, what is the purpose of logistical grace? To protect, to provide, to support, to sustain the advance of the believer to super grace status. Why are you alive in the devil's world right now? Why are you still alive after you should have been dead 3 years ago? Why are you still do you still have your 5 fingers, your hands, your feet, your legs, everything still intact? God's logistical grace. And if you do not have your legs and your hands intact, well, it's all right. You're still alive because of God's logistical grace. He knows all the factors. So we put this 3 points here just to simplify things for now. Point A, this includes the believer, keeping the believer alive in the devil's world, being protected from Satan and from death. You see, Satan, if he had the chance, he would definitely kill you already. One thing that he hates is seeing royal family of God in his kingdom. You are a threat, and if you're listening to my lessons here, you're definitely more of a threat now. Why are you alive? Because of God. God is not going to allow for you anything to happen to you that he has not allowed. He's not going to allow you to die beforehand, before time. So now you can relax a little bit and do not fear death. Satan cannot do anything that God does not give him a green light to do. Obviously, he's whining and complaining and saying, look, he sinned, he did that. So he's always trying to get his way and get permission to do many things to you that you cannot imagine. This is temporal security. So you see so first of all, you need to understand eternal security at salvation, because if you do not understand eternal security, how are you going to understand temporal security? If you're not secure eternally, how are you temporally secured? You're going to be too focused on, am I secured eternally? So it's very important for you to understand eternal security, salvation, so that you can understand temporal security. And this has to do with logistical grace. God will protect the believer from any danger. Nothing will remove the believer from this world until God says so. Do you understand that? God will protect the believer from any danger. Nothing will remove the believer from this world until God says so. And this might include, he can use anything. He can do something directly himself. He can use an angel, such as guardian angels. You do have your guardian angels right there around you, looking at you, and maybe a few demons here and there looking at you because you're positive towards doctrine. So he uses intermediate agents. He can use a person's patronage to protect you. He can use a police officer, a military man to protect you. Anything. He can even use you. He can probably give you perception at that moment. Fast reflexes. Because someone's about to come and sucker punch you, all of a sudden, whoop, you have the reflexes of a cat. And so you duck down and you were not hit. A hit that could have probably cost you your eyesight or something. So you can use anything. Let's go to Job 5:19 really quick. Job, oh, I do not have this. I think I do. Here we are. Okay. 5:19, and I'm gonna go roughly over or briefly over the English. From 6 calamities he will rescue you. Okay, it's in sheish in 6. I prefer in because you're in the midst of this type of pressure. Yes, it's from, but I like the literal in. Ba is a preposition of in sheish 6. Tsaroth, disasters. Disaster, you're in the middle of disaster. And he's protecting you even though you're right there seeing this, a violent death falling here, a person being affected by this here, and you just being protected as you're seeing these things. And so I like in 6 calamities or disasters. Yatzileka. This is not sad, the Hifil. He will rescue you, he will deliver you. And then and Basheva. And 7, what? And 7, no, lo, here's lo, no, ra, evil, yiga, versus nagat, cal, imperfect, will touch, beka, in you, will touch you. So, in 6 disasters, he will rescue you, and in 7, no evil will touch you. Now keep in mind that evil is the whole, encompasses all the evil of the cosmic system. God's logistical grace protects you from all the evil of the cosmic system. But notice that there's another factor here, your volition. First of all, your volition has to be involved in understanding God's logistical grace, in utilizing God's logistical grace, so that you can continue advancing and use your volition to protect yourself from evil. Because if you do not understand God's logistical grace, you're going to make decisions contrary to his logistical grace, and you yourself are going to allow evil in your life. Therefore, 2 factors: God's logistical grace, which is already protecting you. Secondly, your volition and understanding God's logistical grace. So it is a subject that everyone needs to understand, God's living grace. Again, evil can only touch you to the extent that you allow it in your life. And you allow it because of your ignorance of Bible doctrine, of God's logistical grace. So, and then verse 20, in ra'av, in famine. This is economic depression. But God, he will deliver you from death. Mi amaweth. He will deliver you from death. And in milchamach, in the battle, from the hand of the sword, from the stroke of the sword. So this is military protection. First, we have economic protection. Even though you might be in an economic depression or a recession, and you're have a shortage of resources, he's going to protect you. If there's military disaster around you, he's going to protect you from the sword. Apply that to modern 21st century situation. He's going to protect you from any bullet that's flying around. Any person that's going after you, he's going to protect you until he says it's time. Verse 21, social disaster. You will be concealed. Bashoth, from the whip of lashon, the tongue. Lachon. From the whip of the tongue. You will be concealed, protected, yeah. This is social disaster. A person maligning you, defaming you, even writing something about you, libel, spreading false stories about you, gossip that might be mixed with truth, but mixed with error and whatever it is. That's social disaster. You're going to be protected. Do you worry too much about what they say? Who's your God? You will be concealed from the whip of the tongue, and not fear when destruction comes. What is this destruction here? Mechaya. No, where am I? And not tira. And not fear. Nishod. This is violent death. And you need to not fear when you see violent death. When it comes around you, you're not going to need to fear violent death. Are you one that's scared of everything? Scared of this, scared of that, scared of that? And now you're imposing this fear in your children? Scared of this, scared of that, don't do that, don't do that. Overly sheltered, instead of giving the tools to your child to know what to do in the situation. People are they die many times. A coward dies many times. He's living, he's dying every day. Just fear, 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 fear. You do not even need to fear violent death. This is shod. Right here, this is violent death.